Okay, mashallah. Good. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa mawalah. Amma ba'd. ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمن بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربي زدني علما والحقني بالصالحين سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم سبحانك لا فهم لنا إلا ما فهمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم. Respected sisters in Islam, Alhamdulillah, today we intend to cover a bit more than we have usually done in the past, only because our continuous discussion on prayer, the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the masjid, has built, I believe, somewhat of a foundation that the remaining texts in regards to the topic of salah and masjid should start making sense, inshallah. Before we do that, I just want to point out that we live in a society that's not perfect. And we need to acknowledge and accept that. When it comes to even our Islamic societies, we lack that level of perfection. And we should be open to acknowledging and accepting it. It's not perfect. But we do have to, at the same time that we acknowledge the imperfection, is to work towards bettering the state of affairs for the Muslim community. Unfortunately, what happens is that we allow a culture to normalize within ourselves, and then what happens is that there's an all-out effort to deconstruct that culture by introducing an entirely new culture. What I'm trying to allude towards is, for example, we talk about there is a culture where sisters coming to the masjid is questioned. It is something that's put down. It is something that's not accepted in the general masses. Now, what happens is that instead of pushing that culture towards a moderate culture, because our deen and Islam is moderation, we are not extreme to the right or to the left. We have to follow the balanced path, which is the middle path. Unfortunately, since there was a level of reluctancy when certain communities or cultures were approached in regards to sisters, the alternative has become an exclusive sisters area or masjid where sisters can lead and sisters can preach and sisters can call adhan and sisters can give the khutbah. We have to understand one thing here, that our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam laid down a perfect foundation. That foundation gave way for growth. It's like you go to a nursery and they give you plants. Those plants come in small pots and it has limited space for growth. The goal isn't that you keep that plant in that restricted container for the rest of its life. You're supposed to go and plant it into a larger area where that plant can continue to grow and the roots can continue to grow. If you keep it confined within that plastic container, the roots are going to start jumping out of there, right? And they're going to grow out from there, and you will not be able to maintain its life and the longevity of it because you're allowing it to die like that. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam set out a standard wherein he wanted us to take those plants and plant them wherever we are to allow them to grow in their own way. The call today is that in regards to the continuous disregard and disrespect of sisters in society at large, remember, this isn't an Islamic problem. We're seeing it play out in American culture today, within politics, within the workforce, within every other aspect of society, that sisters and women are shunned, they're belittled, and they are put down as insignificant creatures and creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And many of this goes back to religious ideologies, because as I said in the khutbah on Friday, that in Christianity, it's rooted that Eve was the curse to Adam alayhi salam. It was because of Hawa alayhi salam that we had to come down, and hence women should bear the brunt of that sin for eternity. Which of course our Quran makes it very clear that every one of us are responsible for our actions. We also learned that both of them made a mistake, both of them made tawbah, both of their tawbah was accepted, which means that the mistake that was made was forgiven and accepted, and we have to move on from there. We shouldn't keep on looking back to that. But in regards to the weight of this mistake, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that Adam alayhi salam made the mistake, na Hawa alayhi salam. I am saying this because we are working in a society towards what they're calling equality, that there has to be equality in our world today, that women and men are equal, and in regards to that, that equality should reflect in workforce, that equality should reflect in society at large, that equality should reflect in the homes, and that equality should be reflective in the masjids also and religious spaces. We have to understand one thing. When we go to change Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's deen because of an open tyranny or wrong that has been perpetrated, and we commit a wrong on our own, then that wrong doesn't justify itself in exchange of a wrong that was already done. So what I'm trying to say here is that there's a lot of room for improvement how society is right now. But if we go to make it better, but we make something much worse, that cannot be justified as correct in reflection of the wrong that's continuously happening right now. In our Sharia, we find if someone was to cut you, or to injure you, or to poke your eye out, la samhallah, you can retaliate, but it has to be the same. Since in cuts and in bruises or in broken bones or in certain things, you cannot make equal. Because if you perpetrate a little more pain, inflict more pain, or break a bit more bones than he broke of yours or she broke of yours, you're the wrong person. So in that, the Quran says there's qisas. وَالْجُرْحَ قِصَاص, that in aspect of these type of injuries there is a compensation. But where it says العين بالعين والأنف بالأنف والأذن بالأذن والسن بالسن والجروح قصاص, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, because you can see an even exchange on that, but when it comes to certain types of injuries, there's qisas. Why? Because the last thing you want to do is to go and take revenge, and in taking revenge, you come out being the wrong person. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made sisters and brothers, men and women, equal in their creation. We talked about this in Jumu'ah. This is something Islam presented, Islam advocated for, Islam discussed for the last 1400 years, even though our cultures may not have discussed it. But one thing the Quran made very clear, inna sa'yakum lashatta, that your contributions to society and your abilities to contribute to society are different. The push shouldn't be that I want to prove something. You know, a sister will say, I want to go in the military to prove that a woman can do what a man does. Well, sorry, the Sahabiyat already did that. The female companions were there. It doesn't need to be done to prove a point. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want us to get caught up in this. If a brother is giving khutbah, a sister should give khutbah. If a man is leading salah, why can't a female lead salah? Good question. But let's answer that. If there was any female that was qualified to lead the prayer and to give the khutbah and to change society from the stage, it was Aisha radiallahu anha. But she didn't do it. Why didn't she do it? When a culture is promoting sisters to be contributors towards society, an equal contributor towards society, with the abilities Allah gave to them, which Allah gave to men different, as Allah says in the Holy Quran, but the genders cannot be equal in everything, because if in every aspect they're equal in their contributions and their abilities, then there's no need of a female and a male. Allah would have made just one gender. So we have to always go back to what the Prophet ﷺ and Ummahatul Mu'mineen and the Sahaba did in their time to find answers. Our answers cannot be based on our reactive state or what we feel should be done. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Holy Quran, فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. Any matter that comes up in our society, in our world, in our times, let's take it back to Allah and His Rasul. I.e., let us see within those cases that occurred if we can find some justification or ground that would allow us to do what we want to do today. But if we don't find that justification or that solid ground, then we should not pursue it if we believe in Allah and the final day. So, in regards to that, as we are trying to bring back the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam into my masjid and into my community and into my home and into our society, it's imperative that we see all that we are doing and all that we are not doing, and then gauge what we're doing. Are we doing it right, or we're overdoing it? And those things that we're not doing it, what's the cause preventing us from doing it? So today there's around 7 points that we will be able to extract and understand, and hopefully apply it to our masajid and into our community, because Islam came for everyone. And Islam is something that we all are responsible to uphold, to live, and to propagate. And all of us will be questioned on the day of judgment. The men folk will not just be questioned, all of us will be questioned. How we contributed towards society, how we raised our children. This is a question for the brothers and for the sisters, the mothers and the fathers. So inshallah, the masjid plays a vital role, because the masjid is our hope for our generations to come. There's no other place that will give us hope. And if anyone feels that there is, I welcome their opinions or their suggestions. But realistically, the masjid is the only place where the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to descend on a daily basis. It is the only place where we could come and pick up and take it back home from here. We could put it into our lives and we could share it with our families. We could spread it to our neighbors and we could spread it to our society. That mercy comes here. It doesn't come anywhere else. So that mercy has to be taken and spread. That's why we come here, to pick some of it up and to take it back out into society, so others can also benefit from that feel, inshallah. The last thing we spoke about last week, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we talked about how the women learned from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the masajid, and how even though there was an incident where a sahabiya was harassed, or she was assaulted, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam never changed the rules in regards to women coming to the masjid. And today again, in the 7 points that we will discuss, inshallah, we will be able to see so much of this put into perspective. Anything else we discussed last week in regards to class? Sisters, anyone have any suggestions, thoughts, reminders? Everyone's got their notes, inshallah? We're good? We talked about learning in the masjid, learning from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we spoke about the harassment case that occurred at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, sisters are coming to the masjid. The masjid is facilitating the sisters. We already spoke about this. لا تمنعوا إماء الله من مساجد الله. Don't stop the servants of Allah from the houses of Allah. Everyone remember what we talked about in regards to that? There is a clear-cut definition of what makes us the servants of Allah. And so long we are the servants of Allah, pursuing that level of commitment to Allah, then we should continue to frequent the masajidillah. But when our demeanor and our character and our conduct does not reflect the servant of Allah, then there is a high possibility, a high probability, unfortunately, that our actions will change the house of Allah altogether. Our actions will change Allah's house. The house of Allah will still be the same structure. It will have the same dome and the same rows and the same carpet. But our actions will change it from what it was supposed to be. When a business goes out, someone goes out of business, the building is still there. The shelves and the hangers are still there. But it's dead. Because what made that Macy's or Sears or Kmart is no longer there. The shell is just left. So what will make our masjids masjids and keep our masjid as masjids is how we conduct ourselves. So we spoke about that extensively 2 weeks ago, and we talked about it again last week. The masjids are places where only four things occur. These are the four main objectives of the masjid. Everything aside from that is cherry on the cake. Everything aside from that are sprinkles on the ice cream. But the masjid is spirituality. There is no other place on this earth where you can obtain spirituality except the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't buy it, you can't order it, you can't drink it, you can't eat it. Spirituality only happens in Allah's house. Number two, education and enlightenment. That when that spirituality is being nourished, it's imperative it's nourished with the right words and the right understanding and the right perspectives. So knowledge in Allah's house is like sowing seeds on ground that's fertile. It can grow. If not, then knowledge can be like seeds thrown on tarmac or on cement. They will be food for birds, but they will not do what their purpose was to serve in growing. Number three, community and connection. Any person that feels they want to be part of the community should feel welcome within the community. No one should ever feel that this masjid isn't for me. This community isn't for me. We have a lot of good things, mashallah, going for us in this community. From the diversity of our cultures, from the diversity of our age, the genders, when it comes to our social success, our abilities, our degrees, or whatever we do, mashallah, it doesn't stand out here that there is some and there's other. There's all. We are all one, mashallah. But that present condition continues and needs to continue to grow. It needs to continue to accommodate. No one should ever feel that I cannot be part of this community because I feel there is resistance to me connecting in this community. That is why when we come to the masjid, we should always find someone we don't know and just sit with them. Just sit with them. Alhamdulillah, we can go to each other's houses and our friends and families other times, right? When we have our invitations and dawat, we always call the people we know. But when we come to Allah's house, let us mix with those we don't know. Let us be there for others that may have questions or concerns. Let's just be there for them. No one's saying you have to be a professional or a scholar. Just sit with someone. It will be a great part in allowing them to understand why they're here and to feel comfortable and hopefully return. When we go for Hajj, alhamdulillah, we always talk about what defines a successful Hajj. A successful Hajj is where you serve others. Now you could say, I paid money, I came all this way to do my Hajj. Why do I need to help someone else? Right? It's a good logical question. Now I'm coming here, I spent time and my money, I've put my family aside, and I'm coming here to do my thing. Why do I need to help anyone else? Well, because our ummah and our success is based on helping each other. My thing is our thing. If there is an elderly person with me and I could just help push their wheelchair or hold their hand or assist them to the bathroom, I'll have to go bathroom also. They could go, I'll go also. But guess what? They will get their Hajj complete, you will have your Hajj complete, and you will get the reward of their Hajj also, subhanAllah. Without any decrease or diminish in their Hajj, you will get that reward. Why? Because our Hajj and our Islam teaches us it's not about me, it's about us. And in helping others, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will appoint the angels to pray for you and to accept your prayers because you're exhausting your time helping others to do their prayers. Our deen teaches us in every dua in the Quran, almost every dua, Rabbana, Atina, Hablana, Ihdina. What is the na about? Us, not me. So the more we create this understanding that my happiness is our happiness, my feeling satisfied and fulfilled with knowledge is our ability to do that. Then what's going to happen is the fourth and final aspect of a masjid, which is service, will be fulfilled. Spirituality, education and enlightenment, community and connection, which will then allow us to serve and gain services also. So there is a give and take, and that is what our masajid are known about. Again, we spoke about this.
Number 4.
Service. Giving service and getting service. So these are the four things we spoke about 2 weeks ago. We touched on it again last week, and once more this time, just to make sure it ingrains itself within our minds that our masajid are of these four things only. When it comes to social engagements, when it comes to clinic, when it comes to food, whatever happens in the community, in the masjid, these are additional things which will help increase these four. If the kids want to play, they could go play basketball or volleyball or whatever they want to do. But in doing so, they're building connection. In doing so, they're serving one another. But if we hear that in the basketball court, there's competition, there's fights, there's problems, then we have discarded one of the four pillars of what our masjid stands for. That will then give way to bullying. That will give way to racism. That will give way to competition on a different level. And that will give way to pushing people away from the masajid. So if these four pillars are not strong, then our masajid will continue to exist in building structure, but it will collapse from its ability to do something effective within the community. Let us move into the points that we want to discuss today. Again, for the sisters coming late, we talked about it's imperative to find balance. Where we have a men-dominated society in our world, and even in our Islam, the answer isn't a female-run society. We need a society where everyone is a part of it. So finding the balance is what we need, not an extreme in response to the current extreme. No one is going to justify. I'm not going to sit here justifying how things run in our Islamic centers at large is right. But we have to accept to work towards the moderate path in the right path. And in doing so, we have to first educate ourselves and convince ourselves that we have to break away from what we feel is right. This culture is so contagious that it is replicating itself even in the generation that was born and raised in this country. And it's amazing because culture is destructive at times. A culture of how to treat another, how to treat the opposite gender. If it was the norm in back home countries, we had an opportunity here to question those norms, but unfortunately, instead of educating ourselves and questioning those norms, we're just going along with it. And that's not acceptable.
Because it's a norm in this country too, unfortunately.
True. And that norm is based on, as I talked about, that it's rooted in a religious belief, which is not even the religious belief, that since Eve is the curse, all women are cursed, and all of us have to just continue punishing women for that. Islam, see, as I said, Allah sent us here in this country for a reason. Because we were to give society at large a better perspective on life and a better way of conducting their affairs. But instead of giving, we started taking. Instead of showing, we started following. And what happened is we went from leading the society to just following practices which are baseless. America is a country where, yes, women should be paid the same as a man because everyone's working and everyone should be paid the same. But how come that's not changing? Because those who are supposed to show the viability of that change have not done so as yet. In countries like in England, where they have Sharia compliant finance structures, banks, when the economy in England collapsed, those banks didn't collapse. Why? Because Islam tells us it takes very long for you to see the benefit of what's right, but it will last long. Whereas in our current finance structure, it's all peaks and valleys. It's going to go up really good and it's going to fall on its face very fast. So when they were consistent in doing things right in their finances, many non-Muslims took on the Sharia compliant mortgages, loans, and everything else, and they found the benefit. Halal food, for example. Many of us have been taught that halal food is a part of our well being. Our spiritual, mental, and physical well being is based on halal and tayyiba. Halal and tayyiba can be discussed for hours because halal doesn't mean chicken or beef. Halal means something, an animal which is permissible to eat. It's not a snake or a frog, uh, or a crocodile or alligator, but it has been raised and killed and processed in a manner that Allah told every previous religion to do so. Why? Because in this country they say you are what you, I didn't hear you. You are what you eat. So if we are raising animals with hormones and antibiotics and all these with garbage that they're feeding them and they're injecting them into these chickens, within 4 to 5 weeks they're overgrown and some of them die just sitting there. They cannot move. That level of stress in that animal transfers into us when we eat it. So raising that animal is such an important part of the process. And then slaughtering it correctly that the blood drains out from it is an important part of the process. Because by draining it out, we're taking out all those things which may be harmful within it. And then washing the meat and cooking it is another important part of the process so that when I put it into my stomach, it doesn't affect me. But we don't see that anymore. We see, well, it's food. Food is food. What's wrong with it? Well, everything's wrong with it. The Prophet ﷺ talked about how children will become uncontrollable. They'll have these rages and fits. And we're seeing that happen right now. We're like, what did I do wrong with this child? Did you know the candies that we feed our children, the chemicals and the colors that are in those chemicals? Sorry, the chemicals are in those colors that make those candies, which affect the mental state of our children. It's a candy. It's good. Let's feed them. You have to start studying these things. What goes in your stomach is more important than the paint you put on your house, for example. This is a very important part. So when we look into the depths of these things, we'll understand everything that I'm doing is either contributing to my well-being or it is destroying my well-being. And Tayyib can also talk about non-GMO foods. Foods that are genetically modified, foods that have chemicals within it that are grown with chemicals, will only continue to affect our bodies in a negative way. They'll affect our emotional state, they'll affect our spiritual state. Because if our bodies are not healthy, how can we stand up and pray? If our bodies are not willing, how can we even go to the masjid? You feel depressed, you feel fatigued. Our food is contributing towards that. So our Islam has given these solutions. Those who stuck to it, today some of the top restaurants in America and around the world are using only halal meat. Why? Because they understand, and they're non-Muslim restaurants, is because they understand that this meat, its way of processing is not only humane, but the taste of it is much better than the other meat. It will take a non-Muslim to teach a Muslim what you have is amazing. Muslims came into this country with like Colgate and toothbrush, right? This is the only thing. Those sticks are backward. Europe has reintroduced that stick called miswak and said the benefits of it it's much more better than using a toothbrush. We discarded it, others will adopt it. In the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is hikmah, there is goodness. If I cannot see it, let me strive to find it. But I know and I have to believe that everything Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did wasn't just because he wanted to do it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided him because in it was guidance for all of us. In that was solution for all of us. In that was protection for all of us. So may Allah give us the ability to understand that, inshallah. Ameen. Number 1 of the 7. Where should women pray? When we talk about men and women pray differently? Why can't the women pray with the men and the men pray with the women? Why can't women go into a man's bathroom and man go into a woman's bathroom? These are questions that people don't ask. But when we don't understand that our deen has times where the brothers and sisters are separate, we cannot always seek a reason for that. For example, they say, why is pork haram? Well, pork is haram because pig is a filthy animal and eats dirt. That's not the reason. See, if we give reasons, then those reasons can be defied. And if someone goes against those reasons, then they can justify. So today, pigs are raised on beautiful farms, fed grains. So it's not eating garbage anymore. It's clean. That means you could eat it. Why is alcohol haram? Oh, because you get so intoxicated, you don't know what you're doing. But if I drink 1 cup of wine, science proves it's good for the heart. I don't get intoxicated. That means it's halal. The biggest mistake Muslims do is they try to give a reason for why we're not supposed to do it. When a child's told don't do it, the child says, Mom said don't do it. End of story. There's no reason behind that. It's don't do it, don't do it. Case closed. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says don't do something, my Allah knows, and I'm just going to follow that. We should not seek reasons for everything that is told to us, to do or not to do. Because our mental state, our brains cannot capacitate Allah's wisdom. But time will allow us to see it. Yes.
So I understand this as an adult especially, right? That even myself, I remember growing up learning about Islam, and then especially with my children, like sometimes to make kids understand, you do have to give those reasons, even though, like I always have that caveat with my kids, like I say, we really don't need a reason, but here are some benefits that they have found, right? But so you do have to, in order to kind of convince, right? People
So
who need
basically,
convincing.
with children, again, even with ourselves sometimes, everyone's drinking alcohol. How come I can't drink alcohol? Just pull up the statistics of how many alcohol-related deaths occur in our country, and how bad alcohol is, and how bad intoxicants are for us. Because sukara doesn't mean just drunk; it means intoxicated. It could be from any source and any mean. So, alhamdulillah, we do have in this country the ability to see what the after effects are of these type of things. And so pork, the animal continues to grow worms and bacteria even after it's dead. Even if you cook it, those worms are growing. And then those worms continue to grow within your body. Like, we could see that research, and that could be utilized for us to reaffirm our gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That, oh Allah, thank you, you kept me away from this. Oh Allah, you've kept me far away from this. I'm so thankful to you for that. So the angle of approach, and I totally get what you're saying, shouldn't be don't drink alcohol because a person gets drunk and look what they do. No, Allah protected us from such a practice because number one, it financially drains you. It opens the door for so many bad practices that makes you into a human being that you're not supposed to be. And number three, it can cause many dangerous effects to your life and to the lives of the people around you. So alhamdulillah, Allah protect us from that.
And that would be the same towards a non-Muslim if you were explaining.
Sure. Yeah. And you showed them the reason, and they themselves know that this stuff isn't good for me, but they're held hostage to their addictions and to what they have been taught. So our Islam is to show the viability of the opposite thing. Not to just speak it, but to show it's viable, it works. And that will be an incentive for them to start working to get out of that. People who have drunk for many years of their life are happy that Islam was a motivational factor to get them out of that addiction. But we have to first show that it's viable for us. We have to show it works for us. Because as human beings, if it works for me, it can work for you also. So alhamdulillah. So in regards to this, I'm saying this because that question comes up, why can't women go and pray with the men? Why can't men and women pray together? Our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith, the best rows for men are those at the front, and the worst are those at the back. And the best rows for women are those at the back, and the worst are those in the front. That's interesting. What does this mean? The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is teaching us that men should hasten to the prayer and they should vie to be in the front rows because the front rows are the best for the men. But for the sisters, she shouldn't feel the need to rush to be in the front because our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that the best rows for the women are the ones in the back. I hope we're not going to have fights this Ramadan, inshallah. Right? Right? Why? Coming to the masjid was the purpose. The purpose is to come and pray. Where I sit shouldn't be a defining factor for the sisters. Men are told, get up in the front so that sitting back doesn't occur. And for the sisters to come and facilitate themselves wherever they are, not to feel that the front rows are better for them than the back ones. The Prophet ﷺ spoke about it in two different ways. For the men, it's the front, for the sisters, in the back. For the men to be lazy and come late and always be in the back is not good. And for the sisters to feel that I'll only be better if I'm in the front, that's not good also. So he set the standards. We already talked about how he said that the people of knowledge stand right behind me. Because if he made a mistake, those are the best people to replace him or to correct him. Then it would be the men, all the men. Then it would be the children. Then it would be the khuntha, which is a man and a woman, basically. And then, of course, I don't know if it's transgender or there's so many terminologies there. And then it would be the sisters, and then it would be the girls. So the women and the girls. So the Prophet ﷺ set out a structure, and no one ever felt the need at that time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and even after him that they should challenge that, because the way it was accommodated was so great. And it wasn't out of disrespect. We need to take out of our minds that Islam put it like this to disrespect us. No, not at all. Rather, matter of fact, Hind bint al-Haritha radiallahu anha, she states that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told her that at the time, Salama told her that at the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when the obligatory prayer was over, the woman would get up to leave, and the Messenger of Allah ﷺ and the men who were with him would wait as long as Allah wanted them to, and then he would get up, and then the men would get up. That level of regard and respect for the sisters to come and for ease for the sisters to leave was a priority of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He didn't say, okay, sisters, stay here. We're going to barge out right now. You wait for us to leave and stuff. No, he respected their presence. He acknowledged their presence. He allowed them to leave with ease. And then when he got an indication for the men to now disperse. Our masajid don't do a lot of things, right? It's a true thing.
When it comes, I've never been to a masjid that have done that.
So what happens is that when we're learning this, the whole purpose is for us to understand what is the right standard and then put together a strategy to work towards that standard. Number one is put together a standard that sisters need to come to the masjid because the house of Allah is for everyone, but to understand what makes me of that level that I can come to Allah's house. And so we talked about that. And then we talk about what makes Allah's house Allah's house. What should be my conduct and my character and my demeanor when I'm in Allah's house? And with that, now we're learning 7 things we're going to do today. Is the place of performance for sister is what we learned. Number 2 is that the respect given to the sisters. When it comes to, for example, like, I don't know how it goes here, but when we had iftar in our masjids in Ramadan, so we'd say the elders and the adults go first. We had the men and sisters separate, but the kids would go first, right? And the kids would fill up all their plates, and then when the adults come, it's not there. But we learned from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that the adults go first, and then the children. Such a beautiful story. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he was a child, and he came to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and he said that he was very hungry, and he wanted something to eat or drink. Our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had nothing. If he had, he would give it. At that time, someone came with a bowl of milk and said, this is a gift for the Prophet ﷺ. So Ibn Abbas's eyes would go, nah, I'm going to have some food. I want to get some milk. And at that time, he told him, go call the Sahabas. So they all came in, all the adults, the elders. He was a child. And they all sat around, and he told Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, take the bowl and serve the adults. He's like, man, I'm not going to get anything here. First of all, this you and I, you know I was needy. I wanted this. What'd you do to me? So the respect is the adults drink first and then the children. Number two, the respect is saqi al-qawm akhiruhum shurba. The person who hosts is the last to eat. Ibn Abbas, you're hosting today. Feed everyone. So he's going from one side, and I'm sure inside his heart, he's like, don't drink it all, don't drink it all, stop, stop, stop. And he gave it to the first one, he gave it to the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one. The bowl is going around. And Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh is in that state that, you know what, it's not fair. A lot of things don't look fair, but we don't understand the wisdom beyond it. Let's try and figure it out. So after feeding everyone, the Prophet ﷺ is looking at Ibn Abbas and he's smiling because he knows exactly what's going through his head. And when it gets to the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ himself drank. He didn't say, okay, Ibn Abbas, your turn. He drank also. And after he drank, he said to Ibn Abbas, now you drink. The bowl was maybe 2/3 empty. He started drinking. And he stopped. The Prophet said, keep drinking, keep drinking. He drank and he drank and he drank and he drank until it came up to here. He said, I have no more space. And they looked in the bowl, there was still milk in the bowl. This is the miracle of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. But it was to show us, if we follow the etiquettes and the standards that our deen set out, not because culture says so, but because my Prophet ﷺ knows so. And him knowing, I believe it, I'm going to do it. I don't care if the world turns upside down. For example, let me give you one thing. Let me pause this story. We're not done with the story. Many of us have pain in our knees. Did you know standing up and drinking causes that pain? So the Prophet ﷺ told us, sit down and drink. You must be really thirsty, take 3 sips. And in between the sips, remove the vessel or the bottle or the cup so you could breathe and not breathe into your food. That's why we don't blow on our food, because when we blow on our food, we're contaminating our food. Let it cool down. Don't eat hot. Then drink in 3 sips. It's a slower process, but it gives you full satisfaction. You'll feel, alhamdulillah, I'm full, alhamdulillah, it's good, because you gave yourself the time and you believed in the practice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So here, we're talking about Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh. He drank and he drank and he filled up. Why? Because not only was this a miracle, but at the same time, this is what we call barakah, blessings. The blessings happens when we do things right. We'll have a little food and we'll be like, oh my Allah, it's not going to work. And guess what? 50, 80 people will eat from it. That happened during the Khandaq, right? So many people came and ate from that Sahabi's house. And after the Prophet ﷺ ate, he made dua, the goat got up and walked away. This is a miracle, but it happens because the Prophet ﷺ was there and he did it. But the barakah comes when we follow the way of Rasulullah ﷺ. So number 2, we find out that there was respect for the sisters' presence in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 3, do sisters have an ability to contribute in the masjid when it comes to worship?
Yes.
Yes, they do. In Bukhari and Muslim, we find a hadith concerning how women should draw attention to the imam if he does something wrong in the prayer. So the Prophet ﷺ made some mistakes in the prayer. As a brother, we say subhanallah. If for example, if they miss the ruku or something, you say subhanallah, right? So the imam says, okay, I have to go in ruku. Just give an example. The sisters don't say subhanallah, but they clap. They clap with their hand. Notify the imam that something is wrong. So what happened was, there was clapping done during one of the prayers. So Sahl ibn Sa'ad radiallahu ta'ala says, Rasulullah said, why do I see you clapping so much? Whoever notices an error should say subhanallah. That will alert me by your words. Clapping is only for the women. This is exclusive for the sisters, that the sisters in the prayer, if something goes wrong, the sisters can clap and they can notify the imam something was wrong. So what are we finding out here? That the sisters prayed behind the men in close proximity. Again, we're talking about logistics also. In our community, we are a larger community, so it's hard for that to happen. But the sisters' contribution towards the prayer was noticeable, right? They could clap and the Prophet ﷺ could hear, giving this understanding to us that their contribution in the prayer is also valid. If they can contribute in the prayer, why can't they contribute in the grand scale of things? Why can they not contribute in the society? If we continue to feel that a woman doesn't have a role in Islam, Islam will never succeed. Islam is only half complete. It is complete when everyone contributes as servants of Allah for the deen of Allah in the house of Allah. I don't think I need to explain those three because we've understood that with quite detail. The norm should be that our communities grow in our presence, not decline. At the time of Rasulullah ﷺ, it wasn't okay, you are the good sahabiyat, you go. You're the younger ones, you stay home. Or vice versa, you're old now, you stay at home and I should go. Everyone who wanted to go went. At the time of the Abbasid Khalifa, the courtyard of the masjid would also fill up. So not only did the sisters fill up their section, but they filled up the courtyard. And there was no space. And there were brothers coming after, and there was no place to pray. So the ruling wasn't, okay, women, you need to start going home now and pray because the men have to pray here. No. Ibn al-Qasim, rahimahullah, he writes from the fatwa of Imam Malik, I asked Malik about people who came to the mosque and found the courtyard of the mosque was filled with women. And the mosque itself was filled with men. Where do the men pray? So he said, their prayer will be behind the women. And their prayer will be valid. Think about this. The men's section is full. The sisters' section is full. And the sisters took the courtyard. And the brothers are coming to pray. There's no place to pray. The brothers can pray behind the sisters, outside the door, or in the hallway, and their prayer is accepted and valid. They do not have to repeat it. So as the situation changes, we don't make rulings that say we have to stop the women because the men need to come. We will pray wherever we can find space to pray because the situation dictates it, and no one should have to stop coming because some feel that their coming to the masjid is more of a priority than others. Does everyone understand this? This should not happen, and this should not be a mindset created within our communities. That's why the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, do not stop your women from going to the mosques, although their houses are better for them. I.e., if a lady was to pray in the house, she gets the reward of praying in the masjid. But if she has the chance to go to the masjid, she should go to the masjid, and she should not feel compelled to. She'll get the reward on both places. There is an incident that occurred at the time of Umar radiallahu ta'ala, that Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anh said, we will not let women go out because it will give rise to deviation and suspicion. Ibn Umar radiallahu anh rebuked that individual. Sorry, a person came and said this. So Ibn Umar radiallahu anh rebuked him and said, I tell you that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said such and such, that you shouldn't stop the women, and you're now saying we're not going to let them go? I.e., no one should use the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to justify something that they feel should happen. If the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said don't stop, we don't stop. If he said they should go, they should go. Yes?
So if women comes to masjid for prayer,
Mhm.
do they get 27 times reward or no?
Women get that reward with jama'ah in the masjid and even at home.
Same for home also?
Home also. Yes. That's why he said, even though their houses are better for them, they get that same reward there. But if they want to come to the masjid, they will not lose that reward. It's not like the men will get more reward and the sisters will get less reward. So to understand, the mindset I'm trying to create is we should understand coming to the masjid isn't a wrong thing. But when we want to come to the masjid, we should allow that to grow organically. We should never curb that growth. But at the same time, we have to be servants of Allah, upholding the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are very important factors.
Another question regarding this is at home,
Mhm.
if we have Jamaat, will it be more rewardable or if we pray just ourselves will be more?
Jamaat, you have to do Jamaat. At the homes, if we're praying, we should make an environment where Jamaat is done. If we don't bring the family together to pray, we are destroying our own homes. Collective things at the home, from eating, activities, games, prayer, sitting down to learn. Start even for 2 minutes. Create that environment. Our culture today in society is everyone's independent under the same roof. We should just make our homes into apartments and start charging rent, right? It's just not what a home is supposed to be. A home is where everyone feels the need to be a part of a bigger thing, and everyone contributes towards that bigger thing. So when it comes time to prayer, we turn everything off. Work never ends. Let's pray together. When it comes time to food, let's eat together. Start with at least one meal and let it grow from there, inshallah.
Is it the Jama count up to 3% or 5%? How?
Even if it's a husband and a wife, just make Jamaat, inshallah. More than one person is Jamaat, alhamdulillah.
So, like my son is 10, so can he leave?
He hasn't reached the level of maturity yet, so just, yeah. What you can do sometimes, let him lead
Okay.
so he can feel, that level of respect and importance in the house. And then you make up a prayer again, But don't make them say, okay, I'm going to have to pray behind you, I have to pray again. Encourage them.
No,
Yeah.
I like to pray with both of my daughter and son.
Sure.
I just was wondering what is the age when he can.
Once they reach the age of puberty and maturity, they're fine, alhamdulillah. And we can't put a number to that because it fluctuates for people.
So I have a question. So if my son, he's 13,
Mhm.
and if my husband is not home, can he lead the salah then? Okay, and then I can.
You can pray behind.
But what is the age? So is it usually?
If they reach the age of puberty, and then they're good to go, inshallah. And again, that differs, so.
But if suppose it did not reach the puberty, so then is it okay for the mom to pray and then for the son to pray behind the mom?
No, he would have to pray. What you can do still is just encourage him to do the prayer, and then you pray with him, and then after you pray again, inshallah.
Okay.
Or you can just like what I do if my husband's not home or
Mhm.
my older son's not home, like we can just pray together
Sure.
independently, right? Like
Yeah,
little
but-
one's next to you, but
Again, just to teach them that when we talk to Allah, we all have to talk to Allah. We're not praying, we're talking to Allah. Let's do that together. I remember I was in England once and we went to visit this one house, and the father's sitting on a sofa and he's watching cricket, right? And he's cursing in his language. This child is so bad, doesn't listen. Take him to the masjid. As soon as we walked out of the masjid, I'll never forget. And literally, when you walk out of that house, there's a masjid down the road, up the road, across the road. Like there's masjids everywhere in Blackburn. And the son said the F word and said that this man tells me to pray and he never prays. When we say to our children, go pray, I'm cooking right now. Go pray, I'm doing something right now. No, we all need to talk to Allah. So we're going to drop everything and we're all going to go talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala together. Why? Because nothing should be more important than talking to Allah together. So we should not say to, okay, stop playing toys and go pray. To them, that's important. And to us, what we're doing is important. But in reality, both things can be paused for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 5 minutes. So to create that understanding, to do it with them, our actions will teach them. Sometimes we're worried that how come the kids don't pray properly in the masjid, they're running around stuff. If we train them in the homes and we're praying and they see that we're doing it slowly with concentration and focus, they'll catch on. It takes time, but they'll catch on. And then they'll be able to allow others to catch on also. But if it's constantly you do it and I'll do it on my own time, it's not going to happen. Sister, yeah.
Okay, so in some cases, some husbands don't allow their wives to go to the masjid,
Mhm.
whether it's for salah,
Mhm.
Jummah, or just for even just gathering or,
Mhm.
these things. What's the ruling in that? Because there's like, you can't home, sometimes you have to be with sisters and, you know, there are a lot of issues there where you learn, especially in this, country. And so how does that come? Because there's like, yeah, you have to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to be obedient to husband, and there comes a line where it comes to like a shirk also, subhanallah, you know, that I think a lot of times we don't realize, you know, that we are just not obeying Allah, but we are obeying too much of husbands. So how does that come to the
Again, the whole point is we have to bring back Islam and we have to abolish our culture. Let me just give you the next thing we're going to read. This is your answer. Bilal ibn Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu reports from his father that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Do not deny the women their share of the mosque if they ask your permission." Bilal said, "By Allah, we will most certainly prevent them from going to the mosque." Abdullah, his father, said to him, "I tell you that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not stop them, and you say that you're going to prevent them? Where's the solution here? We should not prevent women from attending the mosque, the Prophet ﷺ saying, especially when they seek your permission to do so. So there has to be a reason why someone is being told not to go. And there has to be a correction if something wrong is happening in order to make it viable for everyone to go. Okay, don't go to the masjid because they gossip a lot. Okay, so can we not stop gossiping in the masjid so that we can make the masjid more accessible for people? It doesn't mean just because there's one thing wrong happening, we should just say stop. The father is reprimanding the son when the father's telling him the Prophet ﷺ said, don't stop them when they ask you permission, and you're saying you're going to stop them. So what makes you better than the word of the Prophet ﷺ? We have to understand that our religion has to be brought back in its correct form, and there's going to be trial and error. There's going to be a lot of mistakes made. But I'd rather make the mistakes as we learn to be better than to accept the norm because we don't want to face mistakes, because we feel better protected not doing something than doing something which can ultimately be the right thing to do. So there is a battle. So if again, not to be disrespectful to anyone, but we need to make our masjids more conducive that people feel the need to come and they feel a fulfilling satisfaction feeling in their hearts after coming here, and they learn something and they're not harmed, and then there's no imminent harm perceived from anyone else in the masjid. These are the places where we all need to attend. So the Prophet ﷺ made it very clear that women come to the masjid, they should continue coming to the masjid. If someone is prevented from doing so, then have a very open discussion as to what are the reservations preventing them from sending someone to the masjid. But not to fight or quarrel. Just remember, Allah said, if there is a dispute, take it back to the Quran and Hadith. We'll find an answer. And then we can work on making that answer reality. No one should ever say that we're not living in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, so you shouldn't go. The time of the Prophet ﷺ wasn't like paradise. It was paradise in the making. You understand the difference? It wasn't that the Prophet ﷺ was there, everything was just barakah and rahmah. It was an effort to make it barakah and rahmah. It was an effort to make it a good society. It was effort that was being made every second of every minute of every hour of every day. It was an effort. So we cannot say, oh, that time was Khairul Qurun. It was Khairul Qurun because effort was made to make it Khairul Qurun. I've heard scholars say, when the Prophet ﷺ said, Khairul Quruni qarni thumma alladhina yalunahum thumma alladhina yalunahum. The best time is my time, the time after it, and the time after it. Which means we're not part of it. We understand that, right? That was the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, and Tabi'een. We're not part of that. But guess what? If you make effort today in the 21st century to be like Khairul Qurun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make you part of Khairul Qurun. Allah will make you part of it because you're making the effort to be part of it. But if you don't make the effort and you are part of Khairul Qurun and you are a hindrance in the path of the effort, you will not be part of it. So Khairul Qurun doesn't mean just that time or that era. It was what was happening in that time and era that made it the best of times. It's not going to be perfect, but we're going to strive to make it perfect. We're going to strive to make it better. But so long there is reluctancy on the side of the husband for us to come, our praying at home is a reward, is of course equivalent to praying at the masjid. But our masjids need to change from being places of prayer only. This is not a place of prayer. This is a place where human beings are built into better human beings. These are places where we educate our hearts, our souls, our minds, and we become better human beings from here. The masjid isn't just for prayer. So if we don't change that culture, we're going to masjid just to pray, we're not going to be able to change the culture surrounding the masjid. Everything happens here in this masjid. Everything happens from the masjid. And I need to be part of that happening because my presence here will make me a better human being, which will make me a better husband or a wife, a better father or mother, a better child or parent. And that's going to only make my home a better place and my society a better place. Does that make sense, inshallah? So there's two more things. The etiquettes surrounding our presence one more time. The Prophet ﷺ said, if any of you, i.e. woman, wishes to attend prayer, she should not wear perfume. He's talking about Isha prayer. If you want to attend the Isha prayer, she should not wear perfume that night before going to Isha prayer. What is he saying here? Let's read on for a bit. In numerous other hadith, he says, if any of you go to the mosque, she should not wear perfume. Any woman who has perfumed herself with incense should not attend the Isha prayer with us. What is happening here? I.e., when we're going to Allah's house, we should be such that we don't distract nor become a distraction. We are not distracted, nor do we become a distraction from the purpose of going to Allah's house. So if our masajid become competition of what people are wearing, of what people are dressing, what people are bringing, how people are driving, then the masjid is going to change, right? We don't want to change a masjid. We have to uphold the masjid to be what a masjid is. I'm coming to fit into the culture, to gain from the culture of Allah's house. I'm not saying masjid, Allah's house, so that it can affect me in my life. I'm not coming to change that. I'm not coming here to distract from that, and I'm not here coming to become a barrier for that. So the Prophet ﷺ, as much as he encouraged the women to come, he also made sure that they're coming for the sake of coming to the masjid, not for anything else that can take away from what it means to be part of a masjid. So these are the etiquettes. And these etiquettes are vital because it's only through these etiquettes that we will be able to uphold what it means to be a servant of Allah and come to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when it comes to we talk about what do you call those, anklets or something? Anklets? They make noise. Those are not permissible also. Why? Because they are a distraction. Perfume is a distraction. Good clothing is a distraction. We're coming to Allah's house as students. We can dress up for parties. Let's not dress up in the masjid that it catches the eyes of other people. When it catches the eyes of other sisters, she'll feel bad. We can't afford those clothing. And now she's going to be depressed when she came here to alleviate her depression and gain happiness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It distracted. For the opposite gender, it becomes a distraction. So we have to remove any distraction from ourselves in our masjids that can turn us away from the purpose of our presence here. That's what the Prophet ﷺ warned, that don't do this, because by doing this, we will lose the essence of our presence here in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's house. Beyond that, I think we have 5 more minutes, inshallah. There is attending of prayer. There are certain prayers, in answer to the sister also, is that there are certain prayers where the Prophet ﷺ commanded you better come. One is he's saying you shouldn't stop them from coming, and one he says you better come. Does that make sense? There's sometimes you have to come and there's no ifs or buts about it. When it comes to the Eid prayers, for example, the Prophet ﷺ had told everyone to come to the Eid prayer. From the young girls to the older women, the women on the menses, everyone should come for the Eid prayer. One sister, one Sahabiya said that she didn't have a jilbab, so it was told that she should acquire one from someone else, but everyone should come to the masajid. In the hadith of Atiyah radiallahu anha, she states, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded us to come out to the Eid prayers and to bring out the adolescents and the pubescent girls, those who usually remained in seclusion, the virgins, everyone. He ordered us to come out, even those who are menstruating, but just keep away from the prayer place, but come to the Eid. We used to be commanded to go out on 2 Eids, including those who usually stayed in seclusion. They were also commanded to come out during the Eid prayer. The Prophet ﷺ commanded us to take them out to the Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. And again, the adolescents, the prepubescent women, the menstruating women, everyone, and those women who were accustomed to staying in seclusion in the homes, everyone should come out for the festival of Eid. I said, "Oh Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, some of us do not have a jilbab." He said, "Let her sister dress her in one of her own jilbabs." I.e., even that's not an excuse. I don't have the right clothing, get a clothing and come on out. Everyone should come out. You see, when we make our religion either too rigid or too liberal, we either say, no, we don't come, we don't celebrate, we don't do this. We are not practicing our religion. Our religion is not rigid. And also, our religion is not super liberal that, dress as you want, come as you want, brother and sister. No, there is a line. The Prophet ﷺ paved that line. It's sad that we don't see it. He said, just follow this. Don't go to this side and don't go to that side. There's a very clear-cut line. Women should come, they shouldn't be stopped. If they ask their husbands, they should be allowed to come. The masjid should be Allah's house. The men and women should be Allah's servants. He made it very clear. But when it comes to the Eid, doesn't matter what your excuse is, you are coming to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's number 6. The last point here is, we talked about the women coming seclusion. Coming to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is an indication of there is intellectual and spiritual benefits in the houses of Allah for the women folk also. The Prophet ﷺ was concerned with the teaching and guidance of women and wanted them to play a part in building the Muslim society. So he devoted part of his khutbah to the women. He would come to the place where the women were gathered and exhort and remind them, and he made doing this a duty of the Imam. We find this in a hadith in Bukhari and in Muslim from Ibn Jurayj radiallahu anhu, who said, Ata told me, I heard Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu ta'ala anhu say, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood up on the occasion of Eid al-Fitr. He led the people in prayer. He began the prayer before the khutbah, then he addressed the people. When the Prophet ﷺ finished his khutbah, he came to the women and spoke to them whilst leaning on Bilal radiallahu anhu's arm. Bilal radiallahu anhu spread out his cloak for the women to put their sadaqah in it. Pause here. Ibn Jurayj is now asking Ata, were they giving zakatul fitr? He said, no. It was sadaqah that they gave at that time. One woman took off her ring and threw it inside the sheet. Other women took off their rings or jewelry and they gave it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's cause. I said to Ata, is it a duty nowadays for the Imam to come to the women and address them when he has finished his khutbah? He said it most certainly is. This is a duty on them, i.e. the Imams. What is wrong with them that they do not do that nowadays? I'm pausing here. Such a strong wording from Ata radiallahu anh, who's telling us that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the teacher of the men, the women, the children. If we are saying that only some should learn and others should learn from the some, what have we done? We've created 2 standards in our society. The Imam, following the footsteps of Rasulullah ﷺ, has to be worried about the sisters, has to be worried about the elderly, has to be worried about the men, has to be worried about the young ones, has to be worried about the children. Our community is everyone. We are not just one gender or one race. We are everyone. So in order for that to be possible, we have to work together towards gaining that guidance as a community, moving forward together as a community, succeeding together as a community. So, in closing today, we learned 7 very important points. Number 1, the place of performance of prayer for the women was described by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Aisha radiallahu anha, Fatima radiallahu anha, and so many other sahabiyat during the time and after never questioned it. It did not define equality in Islam. Rather, equality was that men and women contributed in their own way through Allah's gifted abilities that was gifted to them. Never were they reprimanded for that, nor were they prevented from doing so. They did it, but they never brought that mindset within the core performances of Islam. So there is no justification for any female to stand up and say, I should be an imam today and I should lead the prayer in the masjid for everyone. If someone was to do that, I think it was Aisha radiallahu anha. And if she did that, I would follow her footsteps. But since she didn't do that, it does not give justification for anyone today. But I do understand at the same time the women's grievances today that has pushed them to do such a thing. It is because we have become narrow-minded in our communities and not allowed Islam to grow with everyone. So the places of performance was number 1. Number 2, respecting the presence of women in the masjid. We learned that also. Number 3, that women's contribution, if it's in prayer, their contribution is in society at large. If a lady is told to clap her hand in the prayer, to tell the Prophet ﷺ that something has gone wrong in the prayer, and he acknowledged and accepted that if a lady's clapping hand is a contribution, her voice, her opinion, her efforts, her volunteering, her time, her whatever she can do for the masjid and the community is accepted also. Number 4, the norm in the time of the Prophet ﷺ was the growth of our community, not the decline. So allow communities to grow. We'll figure out accommodation. We'll figure things out. But make our masajid places that people frequent, not where people are pushed away because they shouldn't come, because I feel they shouldn't come. No, I feel, you feel, doesn't matter anymore. What Rasulullah ﷺ did, how Masjid Nabi ﷺ grew, that's how we have to grow too, inshallah. We also learned that in times of difficulties and circumstances, as the incident of the courtyard of Masjid Nabi ﷺ filling up, the men prayed behind the women. The men prayed behind the women. So if you're in Mecca or Medina, if you're in a place where there's so many people and you have to end up praying in a certain position because there's men and women everywhere, go ahead and pray. The situation dictated it, right? But that doesn't mean 2 things. It doesn't mean tell the women go home and don't come to the masjid anymore. The men need to come and pray. Nor does it mean let's just have men and women pray together because we do it in Makkah. We should do it in the masjid also. We should make 1 row of men, 1 row of women. No. This hadith told us that as it continued to grow and women took the courtyard, the men prayed behind the women and their prayer was accepted. Imam Malik rahimahullah wrote about this and he spoke about it also. Number 6, we learned that women educate themselves in the masjid and they should conduct their ways in a manner that they don't become an obstruction, nor are they obstructed from the masjid. We talked about the perfume issue. And last but not least, the etiquettes in regards to certain prayers. Everyone should come to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially in the 2 Eids, as we learned. And also that the women should have a time where they can learn, they can ask, because the Prophet ﷺ made sure he set the standard for that. But with the etiquettes, it's done collectively, it's done in the open, it's done in a respectful manner. There's no touching, there's no joking and laughing. He made sure that he made everyone feel comfortable. So let's take one thing home from this today. If my Prophet Muhammad ﷺ made everyone feel comfortable in Allah's house, yes or no? How can I make someone else feel comfortable in Allah's house? This is your homework. This is your homework within yourself. Nothing to write. What am I doing to help other people feel comfortable in Allah's house? How can I contribute towards that happening? How can we see our communities grow? How can we find relevancy in this masjid that anyone of any age feels I can be a part of this? We don't want to see this continuous growth here, this continuous trend where kids are coming and then when they're teenagers, like, I don't want to come anymore. And we're trying to drag them here and they're like, I don't want to come anymore. And because of them going out, we're going out also. No, this center has to be a place where everyone feels a need to come. And the only way that they'll feel that need is because we will accommodate and facilitate a spiritual connection here that everyone will say, you know what? I need to go get some peace. Mom, dad, sister, brother, I'm going to Allah's house. I'm just going to go find peace. That is here by default. That peace is here by default. If it's missing, it's because something I did or we did to prevent it from happening. Does that make sense? The light is coming from the window by default. The windows are made so light could come. But if the light isn't coming, it's either there's too many clouds outside or we pull down the curtains. All we have to do is pull up the curtains again and allow that light to come. So Allah's house by default is a place where mercy and barakah and rahmah is coming down. Let us be facilitators for that. Let everyone experience that. Let everyone have the ability to ask and understand and learn and grow together. Let us not be a hindrance for that, inshallah. And we will see that this path will be a bit difficult. At times we'll have to bite our tongues. At times we'll just have to let things slide. But inshallah, in the grand scale of things, it will show itself. Last night, and I'll finish with this, last night I spoke in the khatra about how Rasulullah ﷺ is giving khutbah, Jummah khutbah. Every Muslim needs to attend Jummah, yes? Right? It's something that, we read in the hadith, if you miss 3 Jummahs, you recite your kalima again. And a person walks into the masjid, he disrupts the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Ya Rasulullah, make dua. He was giving khutbah. We see someone talking and it hurts us. How do we resolve that? It speaks volumes. So the Prophet ﷺ stopped the khutbah. He said, make dua. There's drought outside. The animals are dying. The crops are dying. Make dua. The Prophet ﷺ didn't say, but tamiz? Huh? Disrespectful? Do you know who you're speaking to? Do you know where you are? Why did you come for Jummah late? No. He put his hands up. He made dua. Oh Allah, send the rain down. Huh? He honored him. He honored him. Guess what? The guy didn't learn. Because after the Prophet ﷺ made dua, it started raining. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It rained 24 hours. And guess what happened? The following Jummah, the Prophet ﷺ is giving khutbah. He's in the khutbah. And the guy walks in. Ya Rasulullah, make dua. What happened now? Everything is drowning. The animals are drowning. The plants are saturated. The Prophet ﷺ did not say to him, Battamiz be sharam. Allah, stop the rain. Send it around us. He didn't learn maybe. Maybe he didn't learn. But it did not prevent him from finding the need to come to Allah's house and ask the way he wanted to ask. Our kids may talk in a different way. Let them talk. But inshallah, we can mold them with time. If it wasn't for the Bedouins, we wouldn't have known most of our deen. Because the Sahabas started creating this level of respect that they felt scared of asking simple questions because they thought it would be disrespectful. And the Prophet ﷺ said, there's no disrespect in this deen. La haya. Ask whatever questions you want. But a Bedouin come in. Oh Muhammad, what is this? And the Sahaba was like, what's wrong with you? But the Prophet ﷺ welcomed that because he wanted to neutralize things. You cannot create an environment of just, we're so conservative, we just have to be quiet. No, this was good. We wanted those questions. And it was because of their questions that Allah revealed verses in the Holy Quran. So may Allah allow us to find the middle path. Ameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to work towards the middle path. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to change our ways and our thought process and our actions to be aligned with that of the Sahabiyat and according to the atmosphere of Masjid Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be a source of benefit and not a source of harm. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us a source of goodness and not a source of Allah's wrath. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us in our families and our communities to grow and gain the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Bi rahmatika ya Arhamar Rahimin. Jazakumullah khairan. I don't know if Sheikh Arsalan is here. Is he here?